Hello everyone, we are doing an analysis of the year of the wood dragon 2024. February 10 is the beginning of the year of the wood dragon. We're going to talk about what it means to have a dragon year, what it means to have a wood year, and what are the most important aspects of the energy of the year. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of a summary of what the year is going to be like. And so, as I said, the year starts February 10 because it is the Chinese New Year. It's a lunar year, so it shifts when it starts a little bit every year. The dragon is considered like a perfect sign, except for one small detail, and that's one small detail is that it is imaginary. It doesn't really exist, right? And so all the qualities that we give to the dragon, they really come from imagination. The dragon is considered to be large, powerful, and has inexhaustible energy. Every single culture of the world has some version of a dragon, every single culture. And the shape may change a little bit. In some cultures, dragons fly with wings. In others, they just float in the air, but they always seem to be airbound. And the dragon is considered to be a messenger from heaven, and it is known to be generous and benevolent. So the dragon bestows gifts on humanity. The legend says the Jade Emperor, the Emperor of Heaven, called all of the animals, and he was going to give a prize to the first 12 to arrive, and they had to cross a big river. The dragon should have been first, but it came in at number 5, even after the rabbit, because on the way there, the dragon noticed that people were suffering from lack of rain. So he stayed to make rain in order to benefit the people, and that's why the dragon was number 5. Rain is symbolic of money. In our Western culture, we talk about somebody being a rainmaker, a person who makes a lot of money. And water, in general, in Feng Shui, water is considered to be associated with money. And so this should be a good year for finances. It should be easy to make money this year if your energy meshes well with the dragon. And if you check my page that's going to be under this video, you can see how the year is going to mesh with your particular energy if you scroll down on the page. So the dragon in the Chinese horoscope represents authority, freedom, and generosity. Authority brings with it like an element of hierarchy, right? So this year, hierarchy is going to be important, and it's going to be really essential to reestablish power. So there's several places in the world that have kind of gone out of control. So you can expect this year that those places that have gone out of control are probably going to be neutralized, in the sense that the authority is going to take back its place. This doesn't mean going back to the way things were, because authority doesn't always have to follow a model. It can be also that authority changes, there can be changes in authority. But it is important for any society, for any human group to function, you have to have a proper relationship with authority. And in ancient East Asian thought, that authority, the ultimate authority, comes from heaven. And so fulfilling the wishes or the desires of heaven is important. Then freedom, right? First was authority, then freedom. Freedom in ancient East Asian healing is a condition for health. If you don't have freedom, you can be really healthy, you can't really be happy. And then generosity, because the essence of the dragon is to be generous. The dragon does not exhaust itself. The dragon has energy that does not get used up. And so when that condition exists, a natural consequence of that is generosity, because there's no idea of scarcity. The dragon is hardworking and enthusiastic and can't bear limitations of any kind. The dragon does not acknowledge limitations. That doesn't mean there are no limitations for the dragon, just the dragon doesn't want to admit that they exist. So the dragon loves novelty and creativity. When things don't go its way, the reaction may be explosive, but of short duration. Okay? And so the dragon expects that all the doors are going to be open. So, like if you were driving, if the dragon was driving on traffic, the dragon would expect that every traffic light is going to turn green as the dragon passes. And when that doesn't happen, the dragon is surprised. It's like, what? The world is not bending to my expectations, right? So last year was the year of the water rabbit. And in the year of the water rabbit, changes were constant because the rabbit, being prey, it zigzags to make itself harder to catch, to keep itself safe, right? But this year will be very different. We're going from the energy of a small animal that could be prey to so many other animals to the energy of a gigantic imaginary being that fears nothing because there's nothing out to get it, right? So think of the energy of the dragon as parasailing. Imagine the dragon is flying, right? And so from up high, you only see the big picture. The dragon is not interested in the details. So this is going to be a year for macro things. So the perception of the big things, the big picture. There's not going to be a lot of attention to detail. The dragon starts things, starts projects, and expects other people to fill in and to take care of the details. But the energy of the dragon is just going to be like big strokes, like if you were painting some work of art, you will be using a large brush to make big strokes. While the year of the rabbit was full of investigations, can you remember a year where there were more investigations? That is because the energy of the rabbit is going down the rabbit hole. This year, it's going to be a year of consequences. So remember when I did my analysis last year, I had said there will be a lot of investigations, but no end to the investigations and certainly no consequences from the investigations. But this year is different. This is going to be a year of consequences because remember that authority is very important to the dragon, right? And consequences are important to the dragon. But remember this quality of the dragon, that the dragon explodes and then forgets why it was angry. So you're going to see that in that the consequences may not be what some people expect. So any investigations that were frivolous, we're just following the rabbit hole to follow the rabbit hole and with no clear evidence, with no real purpose, those are going to end. They're going to lose the steam. The energy is going to be gone for those. The budget is going to be over for those. But authentic investigations that are based on truth, fact, and evidence, those are finally going to see consequences. But the consequences are probably going to be magnanimous, right? And so this is going to be really hard for people who have been waiting to see somebody punished. So during the year of the rabbit, because of all the investigations and the changes in direction, a lot of people, they have put up their hopes that they're going to see somebody punished, that are going to see somebody suffer for what they did, right? But the dragon really is interested in reestablishing order, but is not interested in punishment. And so this is a good time. If you are one of those people that has been waiting to see somebody punished, it's a good time to think about and meditate. What is it in you? What is the thing in you that is perhaps hurt that you want to see somebody punished? And look at the people that you wish would be punished and ask this question: who does that person remind me of? If you choose, 2024 can be a year when you can more easily let go of the past and move on to the present and the future, let go of past grudges. So the year of the dragon is a yang year. That means it's a good year to shake the past, start new endeavors, and reimagine ongoing projects. So whatever you have been dragging from your past that has been holding you back, it's a good year to just drop that. You don't have to resolve everything that has happened in your past. Some things you can just let go. It's also a good year to start new endeavors because the year comes with a bang and then another bang and a bang, right? It's a year of progress in big steps. It's also a good year to reimagine ongoing projects. So think about the things that you have been trying to do for a long time that have not materialized. And maybe it's not a good idea to try and do things in the same way you did them before. So like For example, a lot of people have New Year's resolution of something they're going to do that they think is good for them. And every year they have the same resolution and they apply the same techniques to try to be successful in that, and then they drop it because it doesn't work. If you were able to do something for the first couple of months of the year and then you let it go, you don't really know how to do it. So it's a good year to look for options, to look for alternatives, new ways of doing the same things that you were doing before. So for example, if previously you have wanted to exercise more and what you have tried didn't work, maybe you should look at a different type of exercise. Maybe you should look at a different type of gym. Maybe you should look at hiring a personal trainer, right? And so look for different alternatives, different options to do the things that you have wanted to do in the past that did not pan out. The energy of the year is wood, right? And the internal element of the dragon is earth. Now, wood and earth don't get along. The wood element drains the earth element. So the energy of the year is going to be draining to the dragon. So the dragon is not going to soar and fly as easily as it would in another year. And this means that there can be disillusion, that there can be that you're starting projects and everything starts really well, and then things are just not panning out the way you imagined. And it's going to be easier at those moments to get discouraged. But those are the points in your progress when you have to kind of hit the accelerator instead of the brake. So what I'm trying to say is, for example, you start a business and or you give a new slant to a business that you already had, and you're doing everything right and things are going in the right direction, and then things don't pan out exactly the way you wish them to be. The thing to do is not to say, I'm just going to close down my business. The thing to do is to give it an injection of new energy. Every time that you feel like you're reaching a lull or things are coming down, just think about, how can I energize this?
I found it interesting, the draining aspect of the earth and the wood. Do you want to explain that a bit more?
When I do an analysis of the Chinese horoscope animal for that year, I always consider the element and how the internal element that each sign has works with the element of the year. So if the year has an element that supports the element of the animal, that is a year where the characteristics of the animal become stronger. But if it is a year where the element actually controls or destroys the element of the animal, then it is a year that is moves slower, it advances more slowly, and sometimes you can have a kind of regression. In this case, we're having a wood year, and the wood element is for growth. It's the element that in Feng Shui we associate with the health area and with the wealth area, the energy of the spring, and upward growth, right? And many times when we think about the wood element and wealth, we just think about what comes from the ground. You plant a seed, it becomes a tree, and we look at the trunk and we look at the foliage, and we forget that growth also happens underground. And for most species of trees, the roots have to be as almost as big and as strong as the foliage for the tree to be stable. There's some exceptions to that, but most species of trees have their roots are proportional to the size of the tree. And so this is an energy that is growing, right? And in the one hand, the tree is receiving the sunshine and it is receiving the carbon dioxide, and then it produces oxygen. The energy that the tree receives from the sun is inexhaustible. It just keeps coming, it keeps coming, right? And the plant turns that energy from the sun into leaves that then animals can eat, and then they produces fruit and all that. And that's the beautiful aspect of the wood element. But there's the hidden aspect of the wood element, is that the wood element is constantly absorbing nutrients from the soil, and the soil is the earth element. And so while the one source of food for the tree, the sunshine, is inexhaustible, the source of nutrients for the tree in the earth, that is limited. The plants absorb this energy. When we think about the wood element, we think of the live tree or the live plant, not cutting down that tree and then turning it into wooden planks, right? And so the wood element could also be called the tree element or the forest element. And this energy of growth requires a lot of energy. Growth needs a lot of energy. So the energy from the sun, inexhaustible, the energy from the earth, limited. So over a period of time, if you are planting, for example, in a farm, you could exhaust the nutrients from the earth, and then that land is no good, right? But in a forest, it's supposed to be replenished. Or if you are doing something like permaculture, if you are rotating crops, then you avoid exhausting the earth, the soil, right? But the nature of the wood element is to just absorb the energy from the earth. Now, you have animals, that they are also fertilizing the soil. And in the full circle of life, a thriving forest continues to thrive. A thriving forest never exhausts the earth beyond the point where the earth has no longer anything to give. If the forest did that, the forest would die. So this energy of the year is an energy of growth that is going to take nutrients out of the energy of the earth, which is the nature of the dragon. And now you might think, how strange it is to have an animal that is imaginary, an animal that is associated with fire many times and that's actually flying, and you think the internal element of the dragon is earth. How does that mesh? And so you have to look at the main characteristic of the dragon. One of the main characteristics, remember, the characteristics are authority, freedom, and generosity. That generosity of the dragon is what meshes with the earth element, because the earth keeps giving and giving and giving. The earth doesn't have any mechanisms by which it says, I'm no longer going to feed these plants, I'm going to keep the nutrients for myself. The earth gives and gives and gives. And so that is where the earth element has a similarity with the energy of the dragon itself. It's in the generosity, the yielding, the giving. This year, which would have a very giving nature, that giving nature is going to be slowed down and sometimes even reversed by the wood energy. And so that's why I was saying before, when you plan for growth in your life, in your business, in your family relationships, in your friendships, in anything that you want to achieve, your creativity, when you plan for growth, you have to remind yourself constantly that resources are not unlimited, because the dragon tends to believe that resources are unlimited. And so the energy of this year is going to slow down the characteristics of the dragon. So you need to remember that. So think about parasailing. The energy of the year is like parasailing. If you are parasailing, you're going to be floating, and at some point you're going to come down. And then when you come down, how are you going to lift yourself up again? So the dragon doesn't get tired. So the dragon can keep flying and flying and flying and flying, kind of like an eagle, right? But the energy of this year is going to be more like parasailing, where you fly for a little while, then you have to come down to recoup and refresh your energy. And so you are going to have to look for things to uplift yourself when those lulls in the energy of the dragon come. The dragon is going to want to soar indefinitely, but it's going to have to come down because of the energy of the year. And then the dragon needs to figure out how to lift up again. And if you can ride that energy, if you can learn to understand that the lulls are okay, that they're part of life, that you can't be on a constant high. If you learn to use those lulls for things that are compatible with those moments, you can use that time to get a training, to educate yourself, to learn more, to go on vacation, to meditate, to get some kind of massage therapy, go on a retreat, right? And so you need to nourish yourself back so you can go back into the world and do the things that you want to do, achieve the things that you want to do. but it's not going to be like a constant smooth sailing, right? That's the idea. There's going to be lulls. It's important to remember that. The dragon thrives on these inspirations and likes to start projects, right? But this year's resources can be exhausted too quickly if you don't also pay attention to the small details, like the bean counting, the accounting. This is a year that you may get all sorts of ideas of the things that you want to do. And what I recommend that you do is that you write down, make a list of all the ideas of what you want to do, and then start crossing over the ones that are not essential or not important to you. The more energy you can provide to one project, the better off you will be. But if you are a creative and just focusing on one thing is not good for you, then maybe 2, 3 things, right? But if you try to do 12 things in the year, that might be too much. It's a time to reevaluate your priorities, right? To decide what to let go and what you want to keep in your life. How important are things to you? And to get to know yourself and realize, okay, this thing that I have dreamed of doing, maybe it's not the best for me. Maybe it's not what I really want to do. This year is going to be a really good year for intuition, for getting those ideas from heaven. But remember, without action, ideas don't become reality, right? So you have to be grounded so that you can achieve the results that you want to achieve. And when I meditated in order to do the analysis of the year, one of the things that I saw in my meditation was that this is going to be a year where big companies are going to do really well. Companies that are not as huge are going to struggle, and the way for
Yeah.
them to do well is to merge. Multinational companies are probably going to do really well. They're going to tend to do really well. Businesses in the United States that are very large but are national, they're not international, they may struggle, and the way to do well is to team up. And also in relationships, right? The people who are already doing well as they enter the year of the dragon are going to soar. The people that have struggled in the year of the rabbit, they need to make partnerships. They need to join groups. They need to work on relationships, because moving together is easier than moving alone this year. If you don't feel that you are as large or as strong as a dragon, you can become as large or strong as a dragon as part of a group that is for your highest good. This is going to be a good year for luxury items and luxury services, because the people who are loaded, they are going to be spending without measure, right? The people who are like the 1% or the 1% of the 1%, they're going to be spending with abandon. The people who are middle class and upper middle class, they're going to focus on investments, because for them it's not going to be so easy to just spend thoughtlessly. But they're going to be looking about investments, so they might be looking into remodeling homes, adding to homes, buying more homes, or even buying large things, for example, buying boats and those kinds of things. And so it's important to remember that. Also, the people who are not making a lot of money, the way for them to do really well is to make cooperatives or associations. And so this has already happened in Europe a lot. We are just starting to see it in the United States. For example, groups of young people who get together to buy a house, like they buy a large house and they subdivide it in smaller units, or they just share the large house. And so what this year is going to be very auspicious for people who want to make teams and do things together. This may mean in some cases that the people who are not making a lot of money may move in with their parents, but not in a way that it is like they're taking advantage of the parents, or not in a way that means they're failing to launch, but they may come to live with the parents as roommates and partners. And it may be also with parents, with aging parents. And so like one trend that we're already seeing in the United States is lots of converted garages and sheds. And so people are looking at half basements, garages, and sheds to convert into tiny homes. because this year comes with this energy of association and doing things together because you are stronger together. And there's also a possibility of a recession because of this. Then the year 2020, in early 2020, before we knew what COVID was going to be, the 1/3 of people in the United States had already defaulted on their loans. So that's 70 million adults, which is 1/3 of adults in the United States had defaulted on their loans. And then the pandemic came, and with that came the stimulus checks, and that averted the recession. So people were able to pay their back debt. They were able to spend more money to make some investments, start businesses, right? And so that was really good. So whatever was causing that recession, in a possible recession in 2020, may have been bumped into the future, but it's not likely to happen during the year of the dragon. It's likely to happen during the year of the snake. So this is a
Is
really
the
good year.
snake next year, is it?
Yes. And so
Right.
this is a really good year to prepare for a potential recession next year. I'm going to ask the question, how do I phrase it? How to best navigate 2024, the year of the wood dragon. And I always add, from highest source for highest good. Usually what happens is when we do these readings, we would get some general understanding of the year, but there's also usually sub-messages embedded for all the people who are participating in the live recording and for the people who will read this and listen to it, watch it later on. So I'm going to throw the coins. I use a virtual I Ching that is uncannily good, and for me works just as well as throwing the coins. So we got 33, which is retreat. We're going to analyze the hexagram lines first. He retires nobly, seeing that it is for the good of all. And the other one is, now wait a minute, the third line from the bottom is, though it imperils his retreat, he must provide for the safety of those who have served him loyally. And the other one is, he retires nobly, seeing that it is for the good of all. I'm gonna read the original text because these are a little bit cryptic. So the third line from the bottom means a halted retreat is nerve-wracking and dangerous. To retain people as men and maidservants brings good fortune. When it is time to retreat, it is both unpleasant and dangerous to be held back, because then one no longer has freedom of action. In such a case, the only expedient is to take into one's service, so to speak, those who refuse to let one go, so that one may at least keep one's initiative and not fall helplessly under their domination. But even with this expedient, the situation is far from satisfactory, for what can one hope to accomplish with such servants? So again, a halted retreat is nerve-wracking and dangerous. To retain people as men and maidservants brings good fortune. So in our time, we don't have men and maidservants, right? But this can relate, if you're in business, to the employees you have. It can be related to the associates or partners you have, and even to the clients or patients that you have if you are in the health industry. And so again, it says, though it imperils his retreat, he must provide for the safety of those who have served him loyally. So the way I interpret this is, remember how I had said that this is a good year to reimagine the things that have been ongoing for you, finding new ways to do things. This means that you should try and bring along with you the people that have been with you from before. And so this means that you don't necessarily start all over with new people, but you bring the people that were working with you before, even if you don't feel that they are the best matches, or even if you feel that they're not perfect matches. And the other line says, let me see. He retires nobly, seeing that it is for the good of all. And so we're going to read the original text. Cheerful retreat. This is 9 at the top. Cheerful retreat. Everything serves to further. The situation is unequivocal. Inner detachment has become an established fact, and we are at liberty to depart. When one sees the way ahead thus clearly, free of all doubt, a cheerful mood sets in, and one chooses what is right about further thought. Such a clear path ahead always leads to the good. And so, and this means that when you feel like something is no longer for you, like you really feel like even you may have ties to people or to situations in reality, if you feel like your heart is no longer in it, it's fine for you to depart. And many times it is not a good idea to end something, to depart, until you know that in your heart you are no longer attached to it. Then it is easy to move on. When one sees the way ahead, thus clearly free of all doubt, a cheerful mood sets in, and one chooses what is right without further thought. Such a clear path ahead always leads to the good. So this may be related to people who want to end a relationship, like a love relationship. It may be related to people who want to end a partnership. It may be also related to people that want to leave behind a bad habit. And so the idea here is that when you resolve things in your heart, you can move on without keeping in your mind this idea that maybe that was the right person for me, maybe I should have continued to do that. So when you resolve things in your heart, and remember, your heart is where your spirit, the spiritual being that you are, lives unadulterated. When things feel right in your heart, it's easier to make decisions. So I like to read the changing lines first, because those lines are the ones that usually have like these hidden sub messages for the people in the meeting. So you can let me know a little bit later if any of these messages resonated particularly with you. So 33 is retreat. You have the mountain hexagram at the bottom and the heaven hexagram at the top. So it's heaven over the mountain. The tranquil mountain towers overhead, yet remains this side of heaven. The superior person avoids the petty and superficial by keeping shallow men at a distance, not in anger but with dignity. Such a retreat sweeps the path to clear success. Occupy yourself with minute detail. Situation analysis. Retreat in this instant is not a desperate flight in disarray, but a conscious choice to distance yourself from forces that would rob you of your peace. It is not a surrender, but a regrouping. Retreat from this conflict is actually an advance toward your own center. You move toward balance and thus a much stronger position. So what I see here is, and it goes along with something I had said earlier, this is a good time to break with things that you have been carrying, baggage that you have been carrying that no longer serves you in any way, right? And so sometimes in order to let go of something, you kind of have to retreat because you need to lose the momentum that has been taking you in a particular direction. And so this is a good time to let go of people who are no longer for your highest good. And sometimes this happens. You can have a really good friend, and that friend just, you change, they change, and you just can't keep hanging out. It could be something like that. But it could also be, the representation of shallow men can also be the aspects of yourself. Leaving shallow men behind may also be aspects of yourself that you need to leave behind. And occupy yourself with minute detail, right? Because the year is going to be a year of big strokes. So you need to put in the detail. And so it's also important to remember that you can't always just advance, advance, advance. Sometimes you have to take a step back to contemplate the situation, right? And sometimes being able to retreat allows you to recharge so then you can move on forward. And look at the things this year. What are the things that are robbing you of your peace? And see if you can ditch them, basically, right? So it's not a surrender, but a regrouping. Retreating from this conflict is actually an advance toward your own center. You move toward balance, and thus a much stronger position. So the judgment is retreat, success in what is small, perseverance furthers. And then the image is mountain under heaven, the image of retreat. Thus the superior man or person keeps the inferior person at a distance, not angrily, but with reserve. So this is definitely confirming that it is a time to let go of relationships that hold you back or bring you down. Not everybody that is in your life necessarily has earned a spot in your life. And it is important for you to recognize when you can't take somebody along with you. Remember, with the caveat that in some cases, from one of the changing lines, we heard that in some cases, you need to take people with you. You need to bring them along with the changes that you're making. But if you have determined that a person is not good for you, not good for your heart, then it's okay to let go of that person. And don't do it with animosity. Don't become enemies with people. Don't burn bridges. But give yourself permission to move ahead on your path and to continue to meet the people that are going to be better companions for you on this path. And remember that these people that you would do well to leave behind can be also aspects of your personality, like the Debbie Downer in you, the party animal that doesn't know limits in you, the worrywart, the person that is always distrusting. So if you could separate your different personas, the different roles that you play in your own life, and you could identify which of those roles doesn't serve you, maybe you can let go of that. And it's not always easy to let go of that. Sometimes when you identify something that you would like to leave behind, you need to find a helper. And that may be a teacher, that may be a course, that may be a healer that you need to find, right? So giving yourself permission to do these things. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can find a chart. If you don't know your animal for the Chinese horoscope, you can find it there. And if you scroll to the very bottom of the page, you can let us know what your sign is and what are your expectations for this year.